Welcome on inside another edition of the Business of Social podcast powered by STN Digital. I'm your host, David Brickley, as always joined by producer Will. And this is a special bonus episode edition of the BOS. Last year, Will, as you remember, we had the Real-Time Summit in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Had a great panel there with a good friend and client, Lindsay Signore of NBC Sports, and also Tina Lloyd. Then was at Golf Channel. Now she's over at INSP. But that was a really great summit because of the entire COVID-19 situation. The summit this year was done all online, but had a really good conversation with other agency owners, other people that are ahead of brands, and just had a panel discussion about what's going on in our industry right now. So wanted to share that with the audience. You know, Clark, my man over at RVRB, invited me. He was kind enough to release this special edition of the panel as well. And if you want to buy the replay, you can go to the realtimesummit.com. I think they started like at 10 a.m. and went all the way to 5 p.m. with a bunch of different thought leaders, a bunch of different people in our space giving their feedback and just advice on what's going on. But yeah, realtimesummit.com, rvrb.com if you want to guys check it out. But wanted to share this bonus exclusive episode of the Real Time Summit panel edition.
Yeah, I think a lot of good info and all this kind of stuff's been happening, last 3 weeks now of just kind of smart people getting together and just talking about what they see. Yeah. So a lot of good stuff in there. And I think you'll learn at least one or two things.
All right, here it is, the Real Time Summit, the social media conference. This was the panel, and here it is.
We have a panel that's coming up next. We have David Brickley from California, STN Digital. He's out on the West Coast. We have Victoria McBride. She is in Atlanta. She works for the Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. They're putting on hopefully multiple events this fall. They do the Chick-fil-A events, the Peach Bowl events, Peach Bowl Inc. And fascinating job that she has with them. And a good friend, he's a Story Brand certified guide. He has an agency in Atlanta. His name is Wes Gay. If you're on Twitter, and you're probably going to come across Wes Gay. He is one of the funniest, most interactive people on Twitter. He's taught me so much about how to leverage social media in real time. So we're going to pull a panel together. Will, if you will cue them up, and then we're going to show you a quick video right after that ends. Let's jump into this. Because of time, Victoria McBride, David Brickley, and Wes Gay. Hello, everybody. Wes, let's start with you because you're the first one that popped up on the screen there. Wes, tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're at.
I am in Atlanta, Georgia. I run a Story Brand certified agency. We help people walk through that framework so they figure out not only what to say to their customers, but also how to say it so that people will buy. And then I also text Clark at like 11 p.m. when he's in a panic. So that's part of my job description.
Victoria, tell us where you are, what you do for the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, so I'm in Atlanta, Georgia as well. I work for Peach Bowl Inc., also known as the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So we put on a family of events throughout the year. Next year coming up, we have 3 Chick-fil-A kickoff games, and then, of course, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in December.
Amazing. David, a friend from the West Coast, the Best Coast. Talk to me about what you do out there with STN Digital.
Yeah, essentially 10,000-foot view. STN is a social-first marketing agency. We work with some of the biggest brands in the world. Our niche is really sports and entertainment, so sports teams, sports networks, award shows, TV networks, things like that. We have a lot of fun.
So we did not bring in heroes for this last panel here. We brought in guides, okay? We want you to guide us and help us understand how to navigate not only some of the content we've experienced today, but what are you guys seeing on social right now? I'm going to go right to you, David. Tell us how we need to navigate moving forward content we've heard today, but also just in general, as a leader, what would you pour into our tribe, our family, our fans today?
Yeah, the one thing I've kind of been screaming to the rooftops the last week or so is really just this idea of serving our audience. I think, as leaders of brands, wherever you may be, I think we have a duty, right, to provide that escapism content, that entertainment content, that informative content. I think it's important to stay sensitive to the times and make sure that you're treading lightly in certain scenarios. But man, I think all of us, we all need, those things to look forward to. We need that appointment view content. And we just need to kind of, the NFL free agency for me as a sports fan has been very therapeutic just to kind of have a little bit of normalcy there, right? So I don't take that for granted. I think that's the one thing I've been on a lot of calls with our clients and kind of been strategizing about is, okay, we're in this sucky situation. We all get it. But how do we now serve our audience the best we can, the classiest way we can?
You have a lot of clients, and I'm sure you, like me, have had events canceled. How is your team doing?
We're doing good. I mean, to be completely frank, as you know, I know you're a small business owner as well. We're in wartime mode. This is, and I've let the team know that, like, we have to roll our sleeves up and take this head on. There's events being canceled. There's obviously events being postponed. But at the same time, we still have, clients that need our services, and they're a little underwater and they need help, and their upper management is asking them, what are we going to do, and what's the strategy? So I think we're all focusing on that, but times have definitely changed, and just kind of focusing on day by day how we can shift, evolve, and be better because of it.
Awesome. And Victoria, I guess want to ask you, I guess when you talk about kind of the year-round preparation that you've got for these three big events that you guys put on, and now how does that, how does your strategy or approach change now through this, knowing that your events are kind of more in the back half of the year, but who knows where this has taken us, and what's going to happen?
Yeah, for us, like you said, our events are in the back half of the year. So right now is kind of I like to call it quiet time. We're taking a nap. So instead of really ramping up content or trying to do more than what we normally would, we're kind of staying the course there and making sure that everything that we send out provides value. If it doesn't provide value to you as a college football fan, we're probably not going to post it. So that is really our strategy at the moment. But then there's also kind of the touch and go of how is this going to affect our events going forward? So for us, it's really planning for the best case scenario, but also making sure that we're prepared on the back end if something were to go awry.
So you mentioned in a conversation leading up to this about the Rockies and the Red Sox and the Suns. We wanted to give some examples to people that are watching. What have you seen people do, especially in particular Rockies, Red Sox, and the Suns, to pivot right now?
Yeah. So just me as a whole, I like to look at pro teams as well as college teams. And I try to stay not only in football, but outside of that. So just keeping track of what some other colleagues are doing, what some other teams are doing. The Rockies, I think it was like one of the first days that they got quarantined, I guess, or they were working from home. Their social manager posted his setup of his living room. And he was like, this is our work from home setup. We've hired some new interns. They're his kids and his dog. And bringing that human element into social, and letting people know that, you're not just working from home, so are we, right? So kind of identifying with their audience. They've done some giveaways, which has been awesome. They've also shared messages from their players, encouraging people to stay home, and then also what they're doing to pass the time as they're quarantined. So how they're staying healthy and fit, which people care about because they want their team to win when it does come back in season. The Red Sox, they did something really cool. It was like a Photoshop. They said, let's get weird is what they called it. And they let fans send in their very own Photoshop request. So they were Photoshopping pictures of One Direction with their team players. So just anything that their fans wanted. So they're interacting with them, entertaining them, being sensitive to the fact that they're at home. And so we're all trying to pass time, but we also have work to do, and also we're trying to get through something that's really difficult. So being a source of entertainment has been interesting to watch from them. Earlier this morning, they posted their logo, and they had split the two socks as their kind of social distancing solidarity, which a lot of companies have done, but they put a little bit of humor into it. So I thought that was really great as well.
It's good stuff. And I do want to ask David in a second after I jump to Wes, what you've seen on social. Wes, you're a wordsmith. Your words are your thing. Every time I have to write a new set of copy, I pretty much send it to Wes to help him, ask him to help me get through it. But you mentioned how the restraints that we're going through right now are shaking things up, and it's a good pruning. It's a good process. You're on Twitter all day, every day. I don't know if you ever work actually. What have you
appreciate that.
What have you seen, and how is this a good thing for all of us?
Well, at a high level, I do think this season is good because this is the first economic recession or slowdown we've had in the digital marketing era. I mean, you think all the way back to 2008, 2009, Instagram was brand new. Like Your mom wasn't on Facebook yet when the last recession hit. Remember, it was all the way back in those days. And so I think it's good because we had a 10 or 12-year run where any, to borrow the Rocks language, jabroni could be a digital marketing expert, a social media expert, an influencer, or whatever. And now what we're starting to see, I think, is the initial shakeout of people who actually understand marketing, who know the core disciplines, who can go out there and get the work done, versus the people who kind of rode the wave of a really interesting decade in the digital age. And so I think that kind of overall pruning is going to be something we look back on whenever we get on the other side of this. And in 2027, when Malcolm Gladwell writes a book called The Curve and he talks about this whole recession, that'll be probably a chapter in it. But I think what brands are doing really well, the best brands are not just jumping on the conversation bandwagon of where we're at. They're figuring out, how does my brand play a part of this? And so like Nike, as usual, came out and hit a home run with an ad they have that said, I pulled it back up, if you ever dreamed of playing for millions around the world, now's your chance. Play inside, play for the world. Genius. Coca-Cola, on the other hand, paid for some big billboard somewhere, and it just said something about staying home. And it's like, that's not really what we need to hear, Coca-Cola. What I need to hear from you is that stay home and share a Coke with the ones you love, or share a Coke in your house. We'll all raise our Cokes together. Something like that, right? How does your brand fit into this, as opposed to just jumping into the greater noise of what's going on? Aviation Gin with Ryan Reynolds, who's always fantastic, posted today that if you order from their online shop, I think they're donating 30% of proceeds to bartenders, right? So he's hitting a real pain point with so many restaurant people, particularly bartenders, being out of work. So he's giving real money to those folks. He's showing their e-commerce stuff, and he's probably going to sell a lot of gin because of this. So those are some of the brands that are doing well. Small
That's
businesses are fighting like crazy, but it's all about, how do you acknowledge what people are going through, like David said, acknowledge the audience, and then speak through their lens, and don't submit a patched together video of people singing a John Lennon song. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
I know there's some big fans of that out there. David, what are you seeing on social right now that's sticking out to you?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, we've seen an uptick in inbound as well, because listen, there's no live events, there's no at a home, there's no in arena to activate around right now. So people are now, if we all were hoping and praying that everybody would finally get this whole social media thing, I think, the coronavirus may be the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of the execs, like, oh, this digital thing is important, I probably should invest in this whole thing, because that's what we're getting at now. But in terms of what I've seen and, what we've tried to help, I think a few things, like John Legend with Chrissy Teigen doing a piano, concert is awesome. I saw on SportsCenter, Dame Lillard interviewing CJ McCollum and just having a casual conversation. LeBron James during dinner answering a bunch of Laker fan questions. But I think with brands right now, it's really, how do you repurpose your content? How do you lean on nostalgia? How do you find ways to, create conversation? And that's where I think, a lot of brands, and especially in the sports realm, can go to right now, is really being able to, now's the time. If you don't have a TikTok channel, if you've been waiting to launch that new platform, I think if you're not 2Xing, 3Xing, 4Xing your marketing, again, being classy, being sensitive as well, I think now's the time to do all that stuff on your to-do list that has been, I'll get to that later.
It's good. Mickey, I think you froze. Nope, you there? Go for it, Mickey.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I think we've been talking a lot about in the sports and entertainment space and just other things. I think we work with some nonprofits as well, and seeing kind of the nonprofits that rely on events or concerts or different things, and seeing some of these organizations pivot to like you mentioned, nostalgia or older tapping into pre-recorded concerts that they've put on and then live streaming those over YouTube or other channels. And so how can you kind of dig into your library and play the hits, so to speak, and also not lose that connection. Just because the Children's Museum is closed right now doesn't mean that they can't be giving out great content around how play is so important to learn for kids and how you can do it at home, right? So like, what are good content ideas? What are just simple ideas that you can show, as an organization, what you're doing? And so that's some of the stuff that I've been seeing, that extends outside of even just kind of sports, entertainment, news, those kinds of things. I think all businesses, whether it's small businesses, nonprofits, organizations, can, need to be thinking about in this time.
I think too, to add to that, if you don't mind, is from like even a restaurant right now that's been forced to shut down and doesn't do deliveries. It's really difficult for them right now. But if you can find a way to produce content whether it's, healthy recipes or quick recipes while everybody's quarantined and in this current situation. I think you're going to be able to build in that brand awareness, but also I think, your audience will be forever indebted to you for helping them through those times and looking out for them and providing value like Mickey's been talking about. So I think no matter what industry you're in, there's ways, I think, to enter yourself in the conversation and really have people really appreciate you and not forget that in the future.
Hey, Victoria, I'm curious, like, what is it like? Because at first I thought you guys were Chick-fil-A, but you're the Peach Bowl Inc. What is it like?
Yeah.
One of the things we were going to talk about was originally was what you do with partnerships and sponsorships in the midst of not only this, but you guys are Peach Bowl Inc., not Chick-fil-A Inc. So tell us about the difference there.
Yeah. So it's something from a brand awareness perspective that is one of our goals to get out there this coming year. I think we've kind of reached a point where we have such a large family of events, and we are working on expanding, that it is time to differentiate ourselves a little bit. In terms of our relationship with Chick-fil-A, so we are Peach Bowl Inc. We put on the Chick-fil-A kickoff games, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and then we also have a Peach Bowl Challenge, which is a golf tournament that happens in the spring. So that may or may not be happening this year, of course, due to coronavirus. But for us, Chick-fil-A is our title sponsor. So they come in and they have naming rights to the bowl, right? So our relationship with them, in terms of a marketing perspective and even social, is, what are their goals? What are our goals? And how can we merge those together? One of the things that they really like to emphasize is human interaction and those little things that make a difference when you walk into a Chick-fil-A store, right? So our goal is to bring that into the fan experience when you come to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. What are those little things that differentiate us from other major events, and how can we emphasize those? So that's kind of a look at our relationship with them. And in terms of sponsored content as well, I think it comes in, how can we emphasize their products, what we do at our game. So sometimes we might bring back the peach milkshake in December, which is not a thing that they normally do. So how can we emphasize that? And then we also have other sponsors as well for our kickoff games that we work with digitally in terms of content series, and then maybe one-off pieces as well on event day.
It's good. Hey, because of time, I got a text that said tie a bow on it. I want to ask everybody in about 1 or 2 sentences max, if you could give your best encouragement to everybody that's watching as we almost wrap up today. What would you do? Wes, you're the words guy, so I'm going to put you on the spot first. What would you do to say, hey, everybody that's watching, make sure you do this as we go through the next couple of weeks and next couple of months?
Remember, we're not setting 12-month, 3-year social media plans here. We're literally trying to go day to day. So what can you do today? What can you do tomorrow that your audience will appreciate, right? It could be as simple as the Cincinnati Zoo going live every day in a new animal habitat, which is happening. I'd love to see pro athletes do a quick home workout with their kids to keep the kids moving. But literally, what are we going to do today? We'll get back to our plans and strategies later. But let's just go day to day, and we'll go big picture when this whole thing's behind us.
David.
Yeah, I think it's just important to understand that there's 2 different roads you can go down. You can be paralyzed by the situation and kind of stay silent and be in a fear mode, or you can bat this head on and really innovate and be creative. So like people have been saying, this too shall pass. We're going to get on the other side of this. We don't know exactly what the timing is on that, but I think it's just important that we understand the climate we're in. We attack it just like Wes said. And then once we get on the other side of it, I think we'll be much better prepared and be in a good spot because of it.
Victoria, you're next.
Yeah, I would say remember kind of what you're about. So think about your brand, who you are. You want to provide value to your audience, of course, but don't get lost in trying to send out safety measures if you're not the CDC, right? So think about what you're about, who your brand is, what your audience looks for from you, and just remember that and make sure that whatever you're putting out day to day, like Wes said, that you're just making sure that message is really hitting home.
It's good stuff. Thank you guys for jumping on here for 15 minutes from all over the country. 2 of you in Atlanta, 1 of you on the West Coast. Appreciate knowing, I know all of you, so I appreciate the friendship and the time that we spent on the phone together. You guys stay safe, stay well, and we're going to let you slip out while Mickey and I wrap up the Real-Time Summit Online 2020.
Thanks,
see you
y'all.
guys.
Bye.
Yeah,
Mickey,
thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, there was Will. Really appreciate Clark for inviting me on. Had a really good time with all the fine folks there on the panel as well. Hope you guys got some value out of it, like Will said earlier in the program. I think now is the time of sharing. I think the more and more that we can just share ideas, share innovation, share creativity, the better. So we're doing that here on this show. RVRB and the Real Time Summit obviously did that as well. Go check it out if you guys are interested in the replay of the entire summit. TheRealTimeSummit.com, of course, brought to you by RVRB. Thank you so much for all of you for listening. So this has been yet another edition of the Business of Social podcast. I want to thank Will Kelly, producer Will. I want to thank David Furker. I want to thank you for listening. BOS, as we call it, powered by STN Digital.